Hello everybody, and welcome back to All the Mods 10. In the previous episode, we did a lot of changes here in the building that we've called Twist. This is where we have our mechanism set up as well as our power generation. So what we did in that episode was basically upgrade our reactors, and now we have 2 of these nitro tier reactors. We also set it up so that the system can automatically export coal and redstone as well as dry ice into the reactor, which actually makes the generation factor so much higher. So now each of these should be generating about 500,000 FE every tick. And the way we did that, by the way, is we just have an ME export bus set up. This is linked into our system. We have uraninite, dry ice, coal, redstone, as well as water exporting into the reactors. And I think it's just easier, by the way. I did do this in between episodes where we have water exporting into the reactors from the system. I had a sink set up here, but for some reason they just weren't connecting very well, and I felt like it wasn't quite doing its job good enough, so hopefully this works a little bit better. So in between episodes, I have been really busy with grinding up our mechanism machines. And as you can probably tell, we now have ultimate versions for pretty much anything that can have an ultimate version. So I upgraded the injecting factory, the purifying factory, the crushing factory, the enriching factory, and the smelting factory, as well as our crusher that we have over here that's just set up with a few extra patterns. Our enriching factory, which, by the way, these have so many more slots now. And I even did our infusers, and actually the infusers were a really good upgrade. They can store so much more of the material inside of them, and they can just do a ton of recipes at the same time. Everything else over here has pretty much stayed the same. By the way, in the previous episode, we did go through and add the injecting factory here. This just uses hydrogen chloride to process our ores down a little bit further into these copper shards, and the shards can actually go inside of the purifying factory that we already had set up with the rest of our system. So what I want to do today is check out chapter 3 in our quest log. Now this is actually the sort of progress towards making the All the Mods star, which is kind of the goal of the series. To make the All the Mods star, we're going to need to invest in a bunch of different mods, and we need to create all of these different sort of parts for the star. And to actually craft the star, we're going to need a runic star altar, which means that we're going to need to eventually get into modern industrialization, or we could go the Hephaestus smithing route with the Hephaestus forge. So basically we could go into Forbidden Arcanus. Forbidden Arcanus is a mod that I really have not touched a lot. All I really know about it is that we can make the Eternal Stella with it, which basically allows you to make an item unbreakable. And this mod revolves around making the Hephaestus forge. And the goal for the star is to create the smelter prism, which is required for the philosopher's fuel. So if you're as excited as I am to get started with this brand new mod, hit the like button and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton and lets me know that you guys are interested in these videos. If you want to go one step further, why not consider becoming a channel member? It's the best way to support me directly, and you get access to all of these videos early. With all that out of the way, let's jump into a new mod. So I think for today, we're going to be leaving the comforts of our floating peninsula that's just up here, and we're going to be returning to the workshop town, aka the fishing village. And there are a few evil themed magic mods in this mod pack, so I think what we should do is actually create a brand new wizard's tower, but for the darker, scarier mods. And I think these sort of stone pillars that are already sticking up out of the ground here might be a pretty decent place to build this. So I think I have a few ideas rattling around inside of my head, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and get started with creating them. All right, and this is sort of what I came up with. I went with a snake design that's sort of wrapped around this pillar, sort of almost like it is crushing the pillar. The lore behind it is that it was a live snake in the past, but it was defeated by maybe the wizards that are in this tower, and ever since it has been petrified here. Nobody is quite sure if it's living or if it's dead, but yeah. I'm using these rubies from Silent Gem, I believe these are. I guess they're the all the ore version, but yeah, as the eyes, and then I'm just using raw gold as sort of a secondary pattern for the snake. I went mostly with dark stone, this polished dark stone, as well as the regular dark stone for certain parts, and just kind of went through with my exchanging gadget and replacing a few bits here and there with that, as well as the raw gold, as well as deep slate gold ore. I thought it looked pretty nice, sort of as like smaller spots on the snake. So as we go inside of the mouth of the snake, there is a uh, creeper. There's a little secret base hidden inside of here. Now, initially, this is where I was planning on putting my Hephaestus forge, but as I sort of went and measured it out, yeah, the space is way too small for it. So I'll probably put a few things up here. I'm not entirely sure what I want up here. But I've added this white elevator down here, and if we use it, we can get to the underground space. This is at Y24, so it's just a little bit below the surface. But this is where we're actually going to be working on our Forbidden and Arcana stuff. Now, I actually want to grab my spell book and clear out this area down here. And I do want this area to be pretty big, because we need, I think it was a 9x9 for the Hephaestus Forge. So we'll definitely need a lot of space for it. And there is definitely a lot of water here. So I'm wondering if I don't go further down instead. I don't know if this area is going to be workable. Yeah, there's a massive water cave here. And I think to make clearing this area out just a little bit easier, I'm going to craft a second builder. Alright, I think I have the measurements that I wanted figured out for this, so we can go ahead and place this down, get our end gate on it, our ender chest. Now we just shift right click our card onto the builder, we select the first corner and the second corner, and now we can just insert it inside of the builder, and we can just go ahead and tell it to go. Hopefully that'll start mining. I don't quite hear it. Oh, I do see it though. Oh, and it's actually replacing everything with dirt. I don't want it to do that. So we actually need to upgrade this into a clearing quarry. And now it should work. When I tell it to start, here we go. Yep, that looks like it's working now. And in just a matter of seconds, it has already cleared the area out. Wow, that's really cool. So I think I'll just go through and fix up the edges and some of these areas here. It looks like we were in a lush cavern, so there's a little bit of moss growing here. So now I can just go through and exchange all the blocks that are here and try to make it look as good as I can. And I think I'll just keep this as deep slate for now. I might come back through and make this something different, but I kind of like how it looks like this. And I always forget that the building gadget actually has a settings menu where you can actually change how the entire thing works. So I just have it set to a range of 6 now, and that's definitely a lot better for exchanging these walls and the ceiling. And you can also bind them to your ME system as well. I think you shift right click onto the wireless access point, or you put it in here. I did both. I'm not sure which one actually worked though. But what that does is basically allows you to pull items from your ME system instead of from your inventory. And it just makes it so much easier because your inventory doesn't fill up with items and you don't have to rely on inventory space for the items that you're placing. So this is almost done now. And I'm just going to repeat the pattern with the dark stone onto the walls. And I just want to make sure that no enemies are able to spawn here, so I'll place down a Mega Torch and a Feral Flare Lantern, which should prevent mobs from spawning in here, and it should keep it pretty lit up as well, so we don't need to place down torches for ourselves. I also want to disguise these elevators as I think redstone blocks will look pretty nice. We have sort of a black and red theme going down in this area. And so now I think we're ready to actually build our Hephaestus forge. So to do this, it is a multi-block structure. We're going to need gilded, chiseled, polished darkstone, gilded, chiseled, polished darkstone, chiseled, arcane, polished darkstone. And these will all be in a pattern which is actually visible on the tooltip, which is pretty nice to be able to actually see it. So it's going to be a 9x9. And it's going to be a little bit off-centered just because we have this area in the middle. So we want to sort of create a 3-wide block in the middle here. Just like that. And then we just need a little corner cutout almost of it on this side. I think like that. I might be wrong though. I think just to help me visualize this a little bit better, I'm going to replace these blocks out on the sides here because these ones technically aren't part of the ritual to convert it. So yeah, that looks correct. So next up, we're going to need 8 of these gilded, chiseled, polished darkstone. And these are actually going to require diorum nuggets, which are charcoal specifically, arcane crystal dust, gold, and beater. By the way, some of the names of the items in this mod are a little bit hard to pronounce. So to get these arcane crystal dust, we just need to smelt down arcane crystals. You get arcane crystals just from mining. We should have plenty of those. Surprisingly, we only have 85. And the crystals themselves are actually used in a few other recipes as well, so I would recommend not smelting down all of them. And if we combine that with redstone, blaze powder, gunpowder, phantom membrane, and bone meal, that's how we get our beater dust. And now we should be able to craft a few of these diorum ingots. I'm not entirely sure how many we're going to need. I'm going to craft maybe 6 for now. And for these we need specifically the chiseled, polished darkstone. So we'll craft those just like that. We only need 8 of these blocks. And so we probably overestimated our diorum. So these go in almost the center of each of the 3x3s that are inside of here. So you can kind of see right here, there's a 3x3, there's a 3x3 right there. So the next one would go right there. This one will go there, that one there, there, in that corner there, there, and right there. Next up, we're going to need chiseled arcane polished darkstone, and we get that by crafting arcane polished darkstone, which does actually require the diorum ingots and polished darkstone. Oh, and reading the recipe again, it looks like we are going to need 1 more of the gilded chiseled polished darkstone as well, and that one actually goes in the middle beneath our smithing table. But now we can go ahead and craft our arcane stones. I think we just needed to turn these into slabs. And we needed 4 of these, and these just go right outside of the center. Just around the center there. Now all we need is a smithing table and a little bit of extra of the Mundabitar dust. We place the smithing table in the center, and I believe we shift right click it, and that will actually craft our Hephaestus forge. So the Hephaestus forge has a very, very complicated interface, but all we really need to know is that we're going to need our Ariel, souls, blood, and experience. We're also going to need 8 of these pillars, and it's specifically these darkstone pedestals. And we just place these on top of the gilded, chiseled, polished darkstone. Just around the forge like that. And of course the quest didn't actually acknowledge that I created all of this, so I'm just going to tear it down really quick and make sure it's all inside of my inventory. And it looks like diorum is actually a requirement for this quest as well. So hopefully, oh, we're gonna need arcane dust as well. Apparently that didn't enter my inventory. Let's try that again. There we go. Now we can accept all of the rewards from that. So let's talk about the materials that we're gonna require for the Hephaestus Forge now. We're gonna need Ariel, which is probably one of the harder ones to get, or probably more easy if you have things set up already. So Ariel is just the arcane crystal dust mixed with potions of regeneration 2. Now I've already found some from, I think in chests or from quests, I'm not entirely sure. I know that the quest we just completed actually gave us some. So for now, we can just go ahead and insert that. That goes into the first slot over here. Now we have 560 out of 1,000 Ariel. There is another way to actually get Ariel, and that's with the arcane crystal obelisks. These will slowly generate over time a little bit of Ariel for your forge. For each of these obelisks, we're going to need 2 arcane crystal blocks, a arcane polished darkstone, and some Munda beater. And these actually get placed in place of our pedestals. So I think for now I'm just going to do 2, and I'll just replace these ones here. And if I remember correctly, it's the arcane polished darkstone on the bottom, the 2 crystals on top, just like that. Then you just right click with Munda beater. And that creates these small little structures here. And that should begin to generate Ariel for us. And these can actually be picked up as well. So we might as well just have these here generating Ariel for us while we're sort of working on other things. We will need to place these pedestals back in place when we actually need to craft some things with the Hephaestus Forge. Next up, we are going to need some souls. Souls can come from a variety of sources. The biggest one, though, is actually using a soul extractor on soul sand. And the soul extractor is just crafted with an Utrum jar, some nether bricks, and quartz. The Utrum jar is just glass with an edelwood plank. Edelwood is a type of tree that you can find throughout the world. It doesn't have any leaves on it, and it's sort of hollow looking. I've actually gotten a couple of these edelwood logs already, so I'll just convert these into planks so we can craft our Utrum jar and our soul extractor. So now if I place down some soul sand, we can just hold down right click with our soul extractor, and that turns it into soulless sand. And it gives us, I think it gave us a couple of souls. So for the experience slot for the Hephaestus Forge, there's a few different ways that we can actually handle this. Unfortunately, it looks like this doesn't directly handle liquid experience. So from our mob farm, for example, we couldn't actually pipe over the experience that we've already gathered into here. What we would need to do first is actually use a bottler. And we can actually create bottles of enchanting with the experience that we have. So we've already got a ton of experience over here, so I might as well just actually use it here. So I think I'll put my bottler, I think I'll just set this up over here. And I think all that we're actually gonna need is the fluid itself and some extra bottles. So let's see if we can get the fluid XP in here. Nice, we can. Let's grab some bottles and just chuck those inside. And yep, just like that, we're actually creating bottles of enchanting. And the Hephaestus Forge should accept those. It looks like it does. Nice. And I think I will actually just hook this up to our AE system. That way we can actually have it automatically request bottles whenever it needs them. So we'll have this export bus actually set up to export bottles of enchanting. And we can add a crafting card on that as well, which will actually allow it to request bottles if the system ever actually runs out. Oops, and this should actually be exporting bottles, not bottles of enchanting. There we go. That should be working now. So next up, we're gonna need blood for our rituals. We can get this by either directly killing mobs on top of our forge, or we can actually kill mobs with a test tube in our offhand. I think I'm going to go for the first option, actually. I think I want to set up a little mob farm here with a spawner that will just spawn whenever we need to kill some enemies. Alright, so all I really have are blaze spawners, cave spider spawners, a piglin brute spawner, which might work. I also have a slime spawn egg and a cat spawn egg. So we could convert one of our spawners into either of those. I think I'm just going to stick with the blaze. Hopefully they have blood. I'm not entirely sure if they do. I think I'm going to use 5 mob fans for this. And we can just place each of these in sort of the walls here, as well as one in the ceiling maybe. Actually, the more I think about it, I think the blaze spawner is probably going to be not the best way to do this. I'm going to try the piglin brute spawner. Hopefully they are only 1 block wide. I think that they are. Alright, and I'm hoping a configuration like this will work, so eventually all of the mobs should end up in the center here, theoretically. We'll see if it actually works out like that. So I'll go ahead and get our brute spawner here and immediately use a comparator on it so that I don't die. And I think I'm going to use modular routers to actually send a redstone signal wirelessly. So I think I'll set up my router right here. And I want to say that we use a sender router module for this. I'm not entirely sure though. Alright, so instead I actually decided to go with the create redstone link. It basically does the same thing, but a little less complicated. So I've hooked that up to our spawner, and I'll actually go up there now. We have all of the fans set up. I had to move them back a little bit because they were sort of interfering with each other. It was kind of just making it so that the mobs wouldn't move around. But yeah, so we have this all hooked up now. And because we do have the apothic spawners in this mod, we can actually modify them with a few different ingredients here. So for example, fermented spider eyes will increase the spawn count. So more enemies will actually spawn. We can do chorus fruit, which I think that's the one that takes away the AI. Nether Star makes it so that it no longer relies on a player to be nearby. Sugar, you can use quite a lot of sugar, and it basically just decreases the delay between each spawn. And then gas tiers increase the number of entities that are spawned each time. Then we have the soul lantern, which makes it so that it ignores light. Pointed dripstone, if we give it 4 of those, it'll each enemy will start with 20% less health. Clocks, just basically lower the spawn delay. And so with that, I think that's pretty much a maxed out spawner now, as far as I know. So now when I go ahead and flip this lever here, we should see them spawning pretty frequently and dropping right down. You'll notice that they start off with 34 health. Now this is a lot more enemies than I thought it would be. But if we take a look at our Hephaestus forge, it is definitely filling up with blood now. So now that we have a tier 1 forged, it's time to figure out what exactly we can craft with it. If you take a look at the recipes, it will actually list which tier of forge that is actually required for each one. And we can actually make our smelter prism, which by the way just basically acts as a super fuel. And if you use it in the smithing table, it will also give your item this kind of a cool border. I don't think it does anything specifically. I think all it does is, like I said, give you the border. So to craft the smelter prism, we actually need an enhancer relic. These can be found in jungle temples, desert pyramids, and underwater ruins, but I guess in the past I've already found one. I don't remember exactly when I got it, but I do have one. So you just put this inside of the Hephaestus forge, and it'll go inside of one of the relic slots. By the way, as you upgrade your forge, you unlock more tiers. And now we just need 2 coal, looks like 4 blaze powder, and an arcane crystal block. So we place these ingredients on the pedestals around the forge. We will need to pick up our obelisks here and place the pedestals back down. And I don't know if it'll actually matter where the items are, but we place the middle item actually inside of the forge itself. And I forgot that we are actually going to need a gavel for this. So we craft the blacksmith gavel head, and I guess we'll just do a diamond one. So we just craft it like that, and then we just right click our forge, and that will begin to process. And after a short while, we have our smelter prism. And by the way, if you add this to an item, it actually adds auto smelting to it. So in order for some of these quests to actually complete, we're going to need to craft the Klebano. The Klebano is a multi-block that acts like a large furnace. For this, we're going to need a Klebano core, which is just crafted with darkstone and a blast furnace. And I think I just want to build this into the wall as like a little 3x3 here. So we'll go something like that. So it needs to be, I think it was the polished darkstone goes in the corners like that. Then the polished darkstone bricks like that. And that fills in all the way like that, with the polished ones in the corners up top as well. And then we'll just fill in the top. One more polished darkstone there. Brick there, brick there. I think a brick goes there as there. There as well. And the core goes in the middle there. And I think we right click it with the gavel. Actually, we need to shift right click it with our dust like that. There we go. So that is our Klebano, I think is how you pronounce this. And we can claim our rewards from that. And this is how we actually produce obsidian steel. For this, we will need the enhancer relic, raw iron, and obsidian. Unfortunately, I don't have one of these. We need to find it in an armorer, toolsmith, or weaponsmith village or buildings. I feel like I've seen them around, but I just didn't pick them up, I guess. So I'll spend a little bit of time in the village here trying to find one. Hey, there we go. That didn't take too long. I ended up traveling out to Azar Cloaker. I don't know what the name of this village is. It's the one that's over here in this. It's the one that's over here in this spruce biome. So yeah, that wasn't too bad. Let's see if we can find another one. Nope. This blood is from Evilcraft. I'll take that. So I'll just keep that inside of the Klebano. And it looks like it requires specifically raw iron for this. So I'll have to tell our machine here to not export raw iron. And actually I have some silk touched iron ore here. So we can just break these ones down. So we can get these inside of the Klebano, and that should begin to produce. Let's see if we need anything else for this. Oh, right, of course, we need some sort of fuel. So I just have some coal in here. And that produces our obsidian steel ingot. Nice. And we get a few extras from the quest. And now we need to get into some theoretical physics by creating a black hole. If we feed this black hole experience, it can actually produce exsperified orbs. We actually already are using bottles of enchanting for this, but these orbs are actually used in the Eternal Stella, which is how we actually make our items unbreakable. Plus, we need to do it for the quest to continue anyway. For this recipe, we are going to need some more Edelwood, and I think what I want to do is just replace our lumber bees that are producing blazing archwood with the Edelwood for just a little while. We're pretty good on source from Ars Nouveau, so we're not even really using this at this point. And that's a little bit of a problem. I just put it back into the system and it puts it straight into here. So how I actually replace this is just making sure that the filter gets replaced here. So we needed Edelwood to actually create dark matter. We'll also need some corruptite dust, which is made using obsidian steel and some other items here, namely the arcane crystal dust. So if we throw a corruptite dust and a dark matter on the ground, that creates a black hole. And we should be able to automate this. This is just for demonstration purposes right now. So I'll put some bottles of enchanting inside of a dispenser, and every time that we drop a bottle of enchanting on it, it will actually begin to sort of fill up a buffer inside of the black hole. Eventually it should give us one of those orbs eventually, if it's working out. I have no idea how much it takes, and if it's even working right now. But there we go. We have our X-petrified orb there. And so this is just a very simple automation for this. Obviously we can go a little bit more complex with it, but I think this should work for now. And I think this looks a little bit better with it a little more cleaned up. We have an input chest up here, so we just place our bottles of enchanting up there. Those will get pulled out into the dispenser. And I just have a timer set up with a lever. So if I flick the lever, it'll turn back on. And yeah, that'll output into the iron barrel down here. So now I just want to sort of work on getting the soul looting enchantment on my Paxil. It's going to go a little bit slow. We are using these Tome of Weaponry. These basically just allow you to only get a certain type of enchantment. I should probably get into the Apotheosis enchanting pretty soon as well. There's a way to actually store enchantments in it so that we're not wasting all of these enchanted books. I think I'm going to keep them all. We already have a ton, but once we're actually able to craft the enchantment library and eventually the Library of Alexandria, we should have use for all of these spell tomes. Ah, there we go. Finally, Soul Looting 3. I had just gotten Soul Looting 1, and I did like 2 more enchantments and got Soul Looting 3. Nice. So this enchantment goes on a weapon. I don't know if it'll work on a Paxil, though. As far as I can tell, I don't see it. So we'll probably need to create a new specific diamond sword for soul looting. Let's just see what else we can get on it. Frostbite 3, not bad. So we've got Sharpness 3, Looting 2, Unbreaking 3, Tombstone, Soulbound, Soul Looting, which is the important one, and Frostbite 3, as well as now we have Mending. So hopefully this will work on the Piglin Brutes here. They're spawning really fast. I should probably get Sweeping Edge on this as well. I think I got a Sweeping Edge book. And if you see these little corrupt lost souls, this is what we're actually after. So that basically unlocks the rest of this entire line for us. So that's the corrupt soul, the Edelwood logs, the black hole, and the expetrified orbs. And we can even claim our rewards for the major tier 1 forge quest. And it looks like to get the gavel one, we'll just have to create another gavel head. And make sure it ends up in the inventory here. Hopefully that goes. Here we go. And the smelter prism. But yeah, I just saw the episode length and we are definitely out of time for this episode. So I think in the next one, we will continue what we're doing here today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Wishful tears you never knew. Oh, who were we before we had